Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through stacks of research so you don't have to, pulling out what you really need to know. Today, we're getting into stress. Not just, coping day to day, but building real, lasting emotional resilience.
Yeah, and it's such a critical topic. We talk about stress all the time, very casually, but I think people often underestimate the actual physical cost. Stress is basically the brain and body's fight-or-flight system kicking in. It's an ancient wiring meant for short bursts of reacting to danger or a challenge.
Right, a sprint. But now it feels like that sprint never ends. It's become a marathon.
Exactly. The alarm system just stays switched on. And when that happens, when it becomes chronic, well, the body keeps pumping out chemicals. You get elevated blood pressure, faster heart rate, higher blood sugar, constantly. And that isn't just unpleasant. It actively raises the risk for serious conditions, heart disease, anxiety, depression. The list goes on.
Okay, so our goal here today is to give you a kind of dual toolkit. We've looked at clinical studies, self-care guides, and we've pulled out first some simple lifestyle adjustments, but also some really powerful techniques you can use right in the moment when stress hits. We want you walking away ready to act.
Let's start with why this matters so much, the internal cost. If someone asks, why bother prioritizing stress reduction? The simple answer is inflammation.
Inflammation, okay.
Yeah. All kinds of long-term stress trigger inflammatory processes deep down at the cellular level. And that cellular inflammation is fundamentally linked to pretty much every chronic disease related to lifestyle.
And it's not just the body, is it? I found the brain changes fascinating. Chronic stress actually rewires our brain's operating system. Can you break that down?
It's quite striking when you look at the neuroscience. So under prolonged stress, the amygdala, that's the brain's sort of threat detector, the panic button, it can actually get larger, bigger, yeah. And at the same time, the areas we need for rational thinking, planning, keeping emotions in check, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, they can appear smaller.
So let me get this straight. Chronic stress gives you a bigger, more sensitive alarm system. And shrinks the parts of the brain that help you reason and calm down. That actually explains a lot about how it feels to be chronically stressed.
It really does. And, if stress is all about that reactivity, the absolute worst thing you can do is avoidance coping.
What's avoidance coping?
It's basically ignoring it, denying it, distracting yourself.
Yeah.
Trying not to feel the stress. It might give you like a quick hit of relief.
Sure, it feels better for a second.
Right. But it just pushes the problem down. It doesn't solve anything. And long term, it really undermines your mental health.
Why do we do it then, if it's so bad for us?
Well, because it works instantly. It turns down that internal noise right away. But the research is really clear on this. The best countermeasure is actually cultivating present moment awareness.
Being present.
Yeah. It's consistently linked to lower perceived stress, less anxiety, less depression over time. You stop running from the discomfort, and instead, you learn to just observe it.
Okay, that's a powerful why. Let's shift now to the how, the foundational toolkit. These are the simple, concrete things we can do to build resilience before the crisis hits. We're going beyond just eat well, exercise more, looking at the stress-specific angle. Let's start with movement and diet.
Absolutely fundamental. We can't really overstate this. Physical activity, and it doesn't have to be intense, even just walking is a proven stress reducer. The CDC recommendation is 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, plus a couple days of muscle strengthening.
And diet. It's not just about weight. It directly impacts mood regulation, doesn't it? Our sources really highlighted that diets heavy in ultra-processed foods, lots of added sugar, they're strongly linked to feeling more stressed.
And there's a physiological reason for that link. Chronic stress actually makes us crave those high-energy processed foods, which just creates this vicious cycle. And those foods, they often lack the crucial micronutrients your brain needs to manage stress properly. Things like magnesium, B vitamins.
So you need nutrient-dense whole foods.
Exactly. Vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds. They provide the building blocks your nervous system needs, especially when stress is depleting those nutrients.
Okay, what about other things we consume? Screens and caffeine often get overlooked.
Oh, definitely. Minimizing screen time is huge. All that scrolling, especially on phones, it's directly linked to both higher stress and worse sleep. And poor sleep just makes stress feel 10 times worse.
A double whammy.
Totally. And caffeine. Well, it's a stressor, but it depends on the dose. Generally under 400 milligrams a day, maybe 4 or 5 cups of coffee is considered okay for most people. But if you're already feeling highly anxious, even much less than that can keep your body stuck in that chemically stressed state.
Right. So the first set of tips is about managing what goes in our bodies. The next is about organizing our external world. Social connection and boundaries seem key here. It's tough to be calm inside if you're constantly overloaded outside.
So critical. There was one study, I think, with college students that found lower social support from friends, family, partners was linked to significantly higher perceived stress. We need connection.
And boundaries, too. Learning to say no.
Yes. It's an act of self-care, really. Setting clear limits protects your time, your energy, your overall psychological load. It prevents the overload.
And what about those quick wins, the things that just feel good and help instantly? The sources mention nature and touch.
Both are powerful biological stress busters. Spending even just 10 minutes in nature or a local park, even just looking out a window at trees, can improve markers of mental well-being, including lowering stress.
10 minutes, that's very doable.
Very. And maybe the most accessible tool is positive physical contact. Absolutely. Cuddling a partner, hugging a friend, even spending focused time petting an animal. It triggers the release of oxytocin.
The love hormone.
Yeah, or the tendon befriend hormone.
Yeah.
It directly counteracts stress hormones like cortisol. It lowers blood pressure, slows your heart rate. It's literally turning down the stress volume at a hormonal level.
Okay, fantastic foundational stuff. Lifestyle adjustments. Now let's get into the mechanism that really seems to change how the brain processes stress. Mindfulness.
Right, and mindfulness often gets misunderstood. It's not just about relaxing, though that can be a side effect. It's more disciplined practice. Paying attention on purpose to the present moment, what you're thinking, feeling, sensing, but without judging it.
Without judging, that's the hard part.
It is. It's about letting thoughts just be thoughts without getting all tangled up in them.
This sounds like that concept of reperceiving or decentering we read about. It's powerful, but maybe a bit abstract. Can you unpack that?
Sure. Think of your thoughts and feelings like clouds drifting across the sky or cars driving down a street. Decentering is the shift in perspective where you realize you aren't the cloud or the car. You're the observer standing on the sidewalk just watching them pass by. It's that moment you realize, okay, this anxious thought, it's not me, it's just a mental event happening right now. That little bit of distance is huge. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of just reacting.
That makes sense. A bit of space. So what's the science behind why this works? What's happening physically?
Well, when you practice mindfulness, you're actively engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the body's rest and restore system. It directly counters the fight or flight response.
Okay, calming the system down.
Exactly. And in the brain, studies show it actually reduces activity in that hyper-reactive amygdala we talked about earlier.
So fewer knee-jerk fear responses.
Yes, but here's what I find really fascinating. It also seems to increase the speed at which the amygdala recovers after it's been triggered.
So it bounces back faster.
It bounces back faster. It's not just about preventing the alarm, it's about resetting it more quickly once it does go off. And apparently, the more you practice, the faster that recovery becomes.
That sounds like resilience in action, that recovery speed.
That's a great way to put it. And there's more. Long-term practice, like doing an MBSR course, mindfulness-based stress reduction, has been shown to increase gray matter density in the hippocampus.
Which is involved in
Learning, memory, and critically, emotion regulation. So mindfulness seems to physically reshape the brain in ways that support better emotional control.
That's incredible. Okay, let's make this practical. If someone listening right now feels stressed, overwhelmed, what can they actually do? Let's categorize these techniques. Regulators, quick fixes, and formal practices. Start with the regulators breathing.
Right. Breathing is key because it's a direct line to the nervous system.
Yeah.
Main principle. Make your exhalation slower than your inhalation. Just gently extend the out breath That signals safety.
Okay, simple principle. What are some specific techniques? We saw deep belly breathing.
Yeah, focusing on breathing from the abdomen, not shallow chest breaths. Great for general calm. Then there's the 4-7-8 breath. That's inhale for 4 counts, hold gently for 7, and exhale slowly for 8 counts, maybe with a soft whoosh sound. It's really designed for deep relaxation, even helping with sleep.
Hold for 7, exhale for 8. Got it. And what about the stress breath? It mentioned the vagus nerve.
Ah, yes, the stress breath, or sometimes called the physiological sigh. This leverages the vagus nerve, which is like the superhighway of the parasympathetic system. It often involves a double inhale, followed by a long, slow exhale, maybe even an audible sigh or hum. That sound vibration actually travels down and stimulates the vagus nerve, helping shift you out of stress mode.
So the sound itself helps. The source suggested linking this to a daily cue, like doing 12 cycles when you get out of the car. That seems like a smart way to build the habit.
Yeah, absolutely. Connecting a quick, effective practice to something you already do every day. That's how you build consistency without adding more to-dos.
Makes sense. Okay, next category. Quick fixes, the grounding exercises. For when you feel totally overwhelmed, maybe panicky, and need to snap back to the present now, the 5-4-3-2-1 technique seems perfect for this.
It's excellent. It's purely sensory and forces your attention outward, interrupting that internal spiral. You just name 5 things you can see around you.
Okay.
4 things you can physically feel, maybe your feet on the floor, your clothes. 3 things you can hear, traffic, a fan, birds. 2 things you can smell, if possible, and 1 thing you can taste, even just the inside of your mouth.
It forces you out of your head and into your senses?
Exactly. You can do a similar thing with mindful eating. Take 1 raisin or even just 1 bite of your lunch and engage all 5 senses. Really look at it, feel it, smell it, notice the texture and taste develop. It pulls your focus away from worry.
Or just looking out a window. Mindful seeing.
Yeah, just look outside, maybe some trees or the sky.
Yep.
Focus purely on the colors, the shapes, the textures. Try not to name things. That's a tree, that's a cloud. Just observe the visual details. It quiets the labeling mind.
And finally, the more formal or movement practices, we saw things like the body scan.
Right, systematically bringing attention to different parts of the body, noticing sensations without judgment. Studies link that to lower cortisol, and also things like mindful yoga or qigong, which combine that rhythmic breathing with gentle movement.
And for a super quick intervention, just remember STOP.
Yes, slow down. Take a breath. Observe what's happening inside you, thoughts, feelings, sensations, then proceed with more awareness. It's like a mini mindfulness moment you can do anywhere, anytime.
Great tools. Now, let's look at the evidence for structured programs like MBSR. Does committing to an 8-week course really make a difference?
The evidence is pretty strong. Systematic reviews consistently show MBSR is effective, yeah. It helps reduce anxiety, depression, general stress for lots of different people.
But wasn't there a catch? Something about burnout, especially in really high-stress jobs?
That's right, there's some nuance there. Some studies suggest that while MBSR definitely helps with anxiety and general stress, it might be less effective, at least initially, at reducing deep-seated burnout or significantly boosting resilience, say, in healthcare workers.
Why is that?
Well, the thinking is that burnout and maybe resilience are sort of deeper traits or consequences of systemic issues. They might take longer than just 8 weeks to shift fundamentally. You can't necessarily meditate away chronic understaffing, for example.
That makes sense. It addresses the individual's response, but maybe not the root cause of the external pressure. But here's a key thing for people listening who feel strapped for time. What about shorter programs? Do you need the full 8 weeks?
And the great news seems to be, no, probably not. The sources we looked at indicated that abbreviated programs, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, or even intensive weekend formats, seem to be just as effective as the traditional 8-week MBSR for improving psychological well-being.
That's huge. Shorter, focused interventions work just as well. So it really boils down to consistency then.
Consistency seems to be the absolute key. One study with nurses found those who kept up a regular mindfulness practice had significantly lower stress and burnout and higher self-compassion compared to those who practice less often.
So how much practice are we talking about?
The general recommendation coming out of the research seems to be around 15 to 45 minutes of formal practice daily for optimal benefits. But again, consistency is more important than duration on any single day.
Okay, so recapping this deep dive, stress isn't just mental, it's physically damaging. Think inflammation, brain changes. But the encouraging part is that mindfulness can physically reorganize the brain for better recovery. And crucially, short, focused practices really work if we stick with them.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. We know effectiveness is tied to consistent practice. So how can you link one of those short, proven techniques, like the audible stress breath or the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding, to something you already do every single day without fail? Think about it. Checking your email, unlocking your front door, waiting for the kettle to boil, waiting for your computer to boot up. If you can piggyback a quick practice onto those unavoidable moments, you can boost your inner calm without adding a single extra task to your schedule.
A brilliant challenge. Integrate, don't just add. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into stress resilience.